Welcome back to the Artie Lange Show. In addition to Kevin Smith sticking around for a while, he's a big hockey fan, so he wanted to hang out and talk to our next guest, who's a hockey guy, former Flyer, and our hockey expert. Very entertaining, Chris Therien. Chris, what's up, man?
Hello, guys.
How you doing?
Not much. Good, man. Big fan, Kevin. Glad you're in there tonight with Artie. It's great.
Thanks, man. They rooked me. They said you were coming in. I didn't know it was a phone call.
Oh, no, it's a phone call. Yeah. we can't get everybody to come in like you. It's you're being very nice. So tell us, hockey, man. Boston, they're going nuts here, man. Are they a real thing or what?
Yeah, they are. You know, Artie, they play the game the right way. They're tough when they have to be. They're skilled when they have to be. They really play well. Like if you watch that game tonight, or if you saw the last game they played, they're just really clicking on all cylinders. When there's like 5-man units of them all over the ice patched together, and it's really hard to break through that when you're playing that team game. It's amazing what happens when you get into that kind of a system where you just feel like everything's going to go good for you because you're playing together. You feel in that symmetry with your teammates. And for Pittsburgh, I mean, they've come unraveled, and really, I mean, now they have a clear goaltending controversy on their hands, which is going to be just a disaster for a team that was really assembled to win a Stanley Cup. Now they got two guys you just can't trust in net. And it's going to take a monumental effort, I think, for Pittsburgh to get back in the series. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I just don't see it happening.
Kev, are you following it? Do you watch it actively?
I have been. I'm a Devils man and an Oilers man, so both of my teams were out.
Okay.
So this just affords one the opportunity to enjoy some excellent hockey with no horse in the race, so to speak. So every once in a while, you're like, I'm rooting for the underdog. It looks like the Islanders might make it, and then they get knocked out and stuff. So I've just been enjoying this latest round. I didn't know about tonight's result. What was what happened tonight?
6-1. Boston won 6-1. Yeah.
God, the Pens are just falling apart.
Killed them. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, they have these two goalies now, so they don't even know which goalie they're going to go with. The Penguins, right? Each game to game.
Well, they pulled. Yeah, I mean, like Kevin said, I mean, the Islanders were there. I mean, they had a real legitimate chance. I mean, if Pittsburgh would have kind of said, well, we're going to go with Fleury, he's our guy, I mean, the Islanders would have beat him in that series. Fleury was horrendous, just terrible for Pittsburgh. And, and then they went to Volkun, and Volkun is the backup. He's kind of been I don't want to say, I guess he's been a journeyman. He's been around a lot. He's been a starter for a lot of bad teams. And he finally got in there with Pittsburgh. They signed him in the offseason last year to come in, and after Fleury had a terrible series against, my Philadelphia Flyers team last year. And he came in and he played good. He settled the ship a little bit, but I think he's kind of back to what I think you would have expected. Now they put Fleury back in the night, and he was no better. And mind you, they didn't get much help in the hockey game tonight. I mean, both those guys were just, Pittsburgh was just, they were outclassed and outplayed the whole hockey game. But, the Islanders, I mean, they're a good up-and-coming team. Kevin mentioned them. I like that team. And they have, to me, one of the best players in the league in that John Tavares. I mean, they're lucky to have him. And I think good things are going to happen for that franchise when they move to Brooklyn. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot more interest. There's going to be a peaked rivalry with like a bridge rivalry with the Rangers again. It's just going to be a lot better, I think, for that whole New York franchise.
Chris, I'm from Pennsylvania. I want the Pens to do well. I don't understand why Fleury, a first-round pick, plays so well in the regular season and then has an accident in his bed in the postseason. I mean, what is the deal?
Is that a pro term that I'm unaware of?
No,
that's just trying to get around.
There's a more concise term that I wasn't allowed to use.
I would, if I were you from Brown, I wouldn't even broach trying to go there.
I'm just wondering what the deal is. Is he just a head case, or what's wrong with him?
Yeah, it's really funny when you say that too. And he's won a cup before. I mean, he's been there, done that. He's been that
accidentally almost.
Up until, well, you know what? He won a Game 7 in Detroit in the final. I mean, that's no walk in the park to beat them. But he was Mr. Everything. And I remember I think it was 2 years ago, the Flyers lose to Pittsburgh 2 years ago. They beat them last year. And I remember the assistant coach for the Flyers saying, if I had a choice of any guy in the league I'd want, it would be Marc-Andre Fleury. And then last year, it started in that playoff round against Pittsburgh, or against the Flyers, where these guys were, I mean, it was like Brizgalov against Fleury. They were both awful, and teams were winning these 8-7 games. The Flyers got the better of them. They took a 2-0 lead in Pittsburgh like the Bruins did. They had a 3-0 lead, and Pittsburgh made it a little interesting. But, as you know, it's hard to win 4 in a row. But, yeah, he had a good regular season this year. And he came in, and, it was funny. Everything that Pittsburgh had done, getting Ginla at the deadline, Brendan Morrow, they made some great, deep run playoff acquisitions. And the one thing that I think held them back when you're looking at him was, is Fleury going to be the guy he was in the playoffs last year? He's he going to be the guy that was 4 or 5 years ago? And he's clearly has no confidence. You could even see him tonight sitting for the last 5 or 7 games. He came in again as bad as he was against the Islanders.
Right. And is it because I know in the NFL we always talk about how the regular season is one speed and then playoff football is another speed. It's turned up a notch.
Right.
Fleury seems very comfortable with the regular season pace, the speed, but then as soon as the intensity is increased, he can't manage it. He can't get his head around it. He's afraid that he's going to let his team down, and as a result, he does. That's just I don't know.
Right, no, and you're right. I mean, listen, football, I watch it, and hockey's no different in the sense that, I think the difference is between the two sports is you have these series where, like basketball or baseball, especially hockey, where there's so much raw emotion goes into them. Football, you pour it all in every Sunday, and playoff games, it's a battle to the end. But with these playoff series, you get a guy in there, and all of a sudden what happens with hockey players is they're these creatures of habit where when they think that they're in your head, when you feel you've got an edge on another guy, you're going to win that series. And that's the momentum. But the goaltender, for whatever reason, he's just lost his confidence. He doesn't have the confidence. In the last 2 years, he's shown that for whatever reason. I mean, Pittsburgh's going to have to reevaluate their goaltending at the end of this playoff and see where they go. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. And you know what? I'm sure that every hockey expert out there, every player in the Pittsburgh team is probably saying, whatever happened to our all-star franchise goalie? Because he's gone. Whoever he was before, he's no longer.
So you're liking Boston in the East, obviously. So now you got Chicago just went up 2-0 against L.A. And last night they pulled Jonathan Quick, the best goalie in the league, I think.
I thought that was premature.
Yeah.
I didn't think
really?
that was. I didn't think they needed to do that.
I agree with you.
Particularly that early.
What do you think about that? I agree with Kevin. Don't you think that was kind of early for that?
Well, it was 4 goals, right? And so what you don't want to do is you see the momentum going to Chicago. They were dominating the hockey game. And I agree with Kevin saying, well, is it too early? Is it not? The problem is as a coach, you do some forecasting. You're saying to yourself, well, if I leave them in here and they score 2 more, I mean, I don't want to come. Goalies are like pitchers and maybe quarterbacks in football where they're really, 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 they get prepared for these games. Things can get in the kitchen probably a lot like we just talked about with Fleury. So let's put Bernier in last night. Let's see if we can. And believe me, guys, a lot of times you'll see it happen where, the other goalie came in and all of a sudden your team gets a little bit of a rise out of it. Didn't happen in Pittsburgh. Happened last night with LA. They played better when Bernier came in. That's not a long-term fix. That was just a bad night by Jonathan Quick. And I think Daryl Sutter, the head coach in LA, said, look, let's see what we got. We're down 4-0. There's no point wearing this guy out because we're probably most likely not going to win the game. At that point, it was 4-0. We'll put Bernie in, give Quick the night off, let him clear his head. And the thing with L.A., which has been amazing, if you look at they had a stat sheet tonight on NBC on the TV. They're 7-0 at home. They're 1-7 on the road. I mean, they cannot win on the road, and they can't be beaten at home. So it doesn't bode well for them because the bottom line is if Chicago goes in there and wins one game, that series is over too. It probably is already. But L.A., I mean, you know what, like they say, guys, you never really can count out a defending Stanley Cup champion until that last, goal goes in or the horn blows in the elimination game. What is funny this year, though, when you look at the 4 teams left, I don't know if you guys may know this or may not.
They're the last 4 Stanley Cup winners.
Finals.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
The last 4 Stanley Cup champions, yeah. And the fifth team was Detroit, who just got eliminated by the Blackhawks,
as
3-1
well.
lead.
Can I ask you a question about the short?
The last 5 years.
Let me ask you a question about the shortened season, man. I enjoyed the shortened season this year. I know you'll never find an NHL owner going, yeah, less games. But honestly, I think there was more energy to the season because of that, not just in the players, but also in the fan base.
Right.
And maybe I'm not even saying it's got to be as few as we had this year, but cut 10, man.
Games mean more, and it's more intense. Yeah.
And also just easier on the pocketbook for somebody who wants to go to those games.
That's true, man. That's big time.
But think about it. It didn't hurt the season, one iota.
You're right, guys. I mean, when you say it, I mean, listen, 48 games. I mean, unfortunately, no one's going to say it really out loud during the regular season. I do the radio broadcast for the Flyers. The owner doesn't want to hear that because obviously his revenues are based on what he does over 82 games. But you're right. I mean, if the NHL, to me personally, what they need to do is go to 70 games somehow. They'll never do it. And what you're going to do is you're going to lessen the injury factor. You're going to have your better players playing at a higher rate all the time. 48 games was absolutely unbelievable. My rookie year was the year back in '94, the 48-game season.
Oh.
What I liked about it, I think you saw, was that every single game was like a playoff game because you can't fall too far behind the apple cart if you're trying to make the playoffs. And it made for some really, really good hockey and fast-paced, except for the fact it'd be great if you played a 48-game season where everybody was in shape off the get-go. That wasn't
That's right. A lot of those cats started the season looking like me.
No, you're right, though. And hockey was always the big critique of hockey was too many teams made the playoffs. There was a local guy, Jerry Gerard. He did Channel 11 sports in the late 70s and early 80s in New York City. And I think the beginning of the 1980 hockey season, he had a great line where he said, the opening day, he said, the NHL started today. That's the league where they play 80 games to eliminate Winnipeg. And, that's why, hockey's always had that kind of rap. That's why I agree. Maybe not 48. That's really not a lot of games. But, there's a happy compromise in between 48 and the 81 where it's more intense, more exciting. And again, Kevin made another good point here with even baseball, 4 playoff series in basketball. An average fan going to these games, it is expensive. You got a couple of kids.
Oh, it's a lot of money.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Baseball's insane now, the price for, you think of 81 home games. I mean, why would you buy a season ticket package for that?
That's crazy. And Yankee Stadium, and forget about Yankee Stadium, that's just the beginning, is the price of the ticket. Parking, hot dogs, beers, or whatever. It's just nuts.
Here's $37 at Yankee Stadium, and then you go from there.
And God forbid you take a broad who wants a pink Yankee hat for $72. That doesn't fit. Then you gotta get pink Yankee shorts to match it.
That sounded so close to home. I got a sick memory.
Exactly. That sound like it came right from the heart. Absolutely. All right, so I agree with you in the East, but I don't know. I think LA can come back. I think LA and Chicago.
Yeah, I think they'll make a series of it. I do believe LA will make a series of it, and I think. Obviously, Game 3 tomorrow, guys, they're going to have to win that game. If they lose that game, it's all all.
No, right,
off.
Absolutely.
Do you think they drop a single game in LA?
Whoa, excuse me, say that again.
Do you think they drop a single game in LA? I know they're unbeaten in Los Angeles, but
yeah, I think they're playing the real deal right now against Chicago. I think they're the team in the West that just seems to be clicking right now. It's going to be. They may win too. I mean, they did it against St. Louis, but hockey's a strange sport. Anything can happen. It could be a 0-0 game tomorrow. Heading into the third, some bad bounce goes in. All of a sudden, it's Chicago wins the game. But I certainly think the way LA is the defending champion, the closest to winning that last cup. I don't think they're going to go out without a really, really good fight somehow, some way.
All right, well, listen, Chris, it's always great having you on, man. Thanks so much. And after a few more games or after the end of this whole thing, come back and talk more, all right?
I'd love to. I love coming on. Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Yeah, thanks. The great Chris Therien, our hockey guy, will be